Hello, my friends. Hello, Bufero. Today I'm going to present about assessing reading and writing. The focus is assessing young language learners. Reading and writing in a foreign or a second language at school. The texts that the student read and write vary from short passages, poems, questions, and instructions in beginning years to passage and narratives and academically oriented texts related to content areas in later years depend on the type of program and the extent of contact with the language. For children, learning a foreign language is in regular foreign language programs. Reading generally begins early, often incidentally as they learn sight words and as they are exposed to simple reading text, for example, labels, posters, messages, stories in the foreign language classroom. Young foreign language learners in the early primary school years are in the process of developing their literacy understanding and skills, whether in their first or their foreign language. They are in the process of becoming part of a new discourse community and developing a series of new identities. Next, three key factors in the development of literary skills in a foreign language or second language. First language literacy. From Cameron describes the development of reading and writing skills and in the influence of the first language on children's foreign language development. There are knowledge, skills, and strategies that can be transferred across the two languages and new understanding that need to be gained about the particular cues to meaning. And then the second, cultural and background knowledge. A child whose schemata do not accord with the ideas in the text will have greater difficulty reading than a child who brings the same knowledge and cultural background as the text. Vocabulary carries a large part of language speakers' cultural and background knowledge. And then the last one is an oral language foundation in the Terkot language. Phonological awareness, vocabulary knowledge, and other knowledge and skills required for reading and writing develop from oral language. Knowledge of oral vocabulary speeds of recognition, and known words are easier to hold in short-term memory. Oral language used in language tasks become a tool for thinking and learning for second or foreign language learners in the same ways as for mother tongue speakers. Through talking, children are able to construct new understanding, to represent knowledge for themselves, and to share it with others. The next one is assessing reading and writing through computers. There are disadvantages and the advantages. The main disadvantage for using computer is the requirement that the children have the requisite computer and keyboard skills. For the assessment of writing through short or extended text, for example narrative or a report, children need have to master the keyboard and at least some elementary word or until processing skills. Computer assessment for standard writing would be selected only if children are known to have the skills. But besides disadvantage, this also have advantage. For example, useful for diagnosis and assessment. One advantage of commercial computer-based programs containing these kinds of assessment items is that in the classroom, children can gain valuable practice and perhaps motivation by completing them. Complete a level such successfully on the commercial program, perhaps when they have successfully on the commercial program, perhaps when they have finished their set work, they move to a new level and are often motivated to continue to work on the program to compete with their classmates. And then assessing reading. The nature of reading ability. Reading, both process and product. The process of reading involves the interaction between the reader and the text, how the reader is deciphering the writing on the page, what he or she is thinking about while reading, and how the reader is monitoring his or her reading, if at all. Readers bring their schemata into play in order to interpret the text, because children's schemata vary greatly, especially if they come from diverse cultural backgrounds. It is very likely they will interpret the text differently and gain different meaning from the text. And then the scope of reading ability to be assessed in young learner language program. The class textbook may provide the reading matter drawing from the range of texts that are specified in the curriculum. The curriculum is also likely to set out the child's expected growth in reading ability, reflecting children's ability to become independent readers, being able to read a growing range of texts and text types for a range of different purposes. There are maybe text type described, for example, simple illustrated children's narrative, simple information text, short stories, picture book stories, or as children gain more skills like fables, legends, or science fiction. Then, a framework for assessing reading ability is a theoretical construct. Teachers and assessors need to establish the types of text that children read, for what purpose and at what level. Professional text development continua and other guidelines are available to assist these decisions. Selecting reading text and tasks for young learners. Children's literature is central to the development of reading in young learners from Jalango 2000, and therefore can play a central role in reading assessment. Children literally enjoy stories. Children's literature arouses feelings and provokes reflection and sometimes opposition. From Sally, 1999. Children's literature is very suitable to use as assessment, especially since texts, especially for young learners, are generally accompanied by colorful and motivating illustration. And then choosing which comprehension equation to ask and how to ask them. First, natural questions. For example, how many people were in the boat? And then interpretive questions. Do you think the people will be safe in the boat? And then critical reading questions. Do you think it was a good idea to go out in that boat? And then the last one, creative reading questions. What would you do if you were in the boat? And then assessing reading. Should children's reading vocabulary be assessed separately? The answer the answers are two, in embedded way and discretely. Vocabulary can be assessed either in a embedded way during the assessment of a child's reading, or it can be assessed discretely. Since children are learning how to read for meaning, it makes most sense to assess children's vocabulary in the context of text reading. This can be done in informal assessment by questioning children about the meaning of selected word, or through checklists which allow teachers and assessors to check the required reading behavior as part of the wider assessment. An informal assessment task vocabulary can be targeted through the task itself, but still within the context of language use, is as in the following example for beginners. And then how do we know if it is a second language reading problem or a learning problem? First, we can check the child's reading development in his or her first language, and then we can talk to parents about the child's involvement with reading at home. And then the last one, we can observe the child in classroom activities and talk to his or her other teachers. Classroom assessment of reading. First, observation. For example, are they reading independently? Can they follow through after a conference? Are they keeping their diaries? And then interviews with parents. We can see the child's attitude to reading and engagement in reading at home. And then teacher-student reading conferences. Teacher-student reading conferences involve the teacher listening to reading, asking comprehension questions, analyzing errors, and checking the child's attitude and motivation. And then oral reading. Oral reading is used as an assessment tool. Skills such as word pronunciation, recognition of punctuation, speed of reading, understanding of meaning, stress and voice modulation revealing shades of meaning can be assessed. And then informal diagnostic procedures. These may contain tests of contributing skills such as visual discrimination, listening comprehension, alphabet recognition, letter sound correspondence, and may also include tests of oral reading, silent reading comprehension, literacy appreciation, and attitude and interest. And then MISQ analysis is commonly used to analyze the reading ability of beginning first language learners and has also been applied to second language learners. And then portfolios, these include all of information about has been read, impressions and feelings about reading in general and tries, records on interview with parents, observation, pupil self-assessment, and results of informal diagnostic testing. And then the last one, self-assessment. It can be the teacher's tool to see, are children able to evaluate their own reading? Can they reflect on their progress? With the help of self-evaluation, progress chart, reading logs, and journals, which they enter, for example, the details of text they have read and whether they could read it easily or with difficulty, and whether they become responsible for their own learning. And then next, types of reading assessment tests for young learners. First, and then we have one, read and do tasks requiring action responses. Two, reading and retelling. Three, read and do tasks requiring a short written answer. Four, read and do tasks requiring a longer written answer. Five, reading and answer true or false questions. Six, reading and picture matching. 7. Reading and answering multiple choice items. 8. Reading and completing charts, information transfer. 9. Close and gap filling tests. Now we go to the assessing writing. The nature of writing ability. Writing as a process involves the pre-writing, writing, revising, and editing processes that writers go to produce a piece of writing. The products of writing are numerous and in many forms determined by different purposes and audiences and contexts for writing. For example, the illustrated sentences, letters, narratives, and shared book that children produce in the classroom and elsewhere. Okay. The scope of writing ability to be assessed in young learner programs. Children can succeed in writing genres at a range of different levels, and assessment is related to the gradual development of features of successful writing within its genre. For example, a fable, myth, fairy tale, and then a poem or a play for the narrative, and then for the recount we can have newspaper account, letter or a journal, produce procedure, how to build a model, and then for the report, write a report on desert, and then explanation about how a caterpillar grows, and then for exposition, does language learning help me to understand other people better, for example. And then a framework for writing as a theoretical construct. The use of a second language based framework highlights those components of language knowledge that foreign or second language learners need to be able to learn to write successfully. These are knowledge and skills which contributing in assessing writing. You can take a look the book page 248 for the clearer explanation. And then assessing writing, issue in the assessment of writing of young language learners. We have organizational knowledge as divided into two: grammatical knowledge and textual knowledge. Grammatical knowledge is more about knowledge of grammar needs to increase, but for the textual knowledge, how the students writing appropriate text structures for different audiences and purposes. For the pragmatic knowledge, we have functional knowledge and social linguistic knowledge. The functional knowledge, the children need to be able to write to achieve the purposes they wish to achieve. And then social linguistic knowledge, the children need the required knowledge and experience of the target language culture to be able to convey their meaning to their audience. Assessing writing, selecting writing tasks for young learners. Um, First, avoiding anxiety and motivating the children to write. And then the second, the level of reading text. Younger learners need to find motivation and the task for its own sake, so they uh, do not feel anxiety and they can feel happy and motivate them to write better. And then the degree to which children's skills in other areas will impinge on their ability to complete the task. If instructions if instructions are misunderstood, then the child's writing performance can be affected. If a source text is used, then difficulty level of the reading text may also influence the difficulty level of writing tasks. Prompts and preparation for writing assessment. 1. Clear instruction are needed with an indication the audience and purpose for the task and some indication of how the writing will be scored. Length should be specified in pages. For example, write half a page, write one page, for example, like that. And then the purpose of the task is must be clear. uh, what is the goal of the task for the children, so the children know why why I'm writing this, and then what the goals if I have written this, and then table score, so the children know how many score they will get, for example, for vocabulary or for grammar or for meaning, so they will be careful to write. Assessing writing. Does dictation assess writing? Dictation assesses children's ability to distinguish sounds and words in a stream of sounds, and to write these words or characters down with the correct spelling or character formation on paper. There is some assessment of children's understanding involved. They need to be able to understand what is being dictated in order to remember and write down what they hear. Rather than assessing writing, dictation assesses children's listening ability coupled with the ability to record mechanically and accurately the words and the sentences they hear. Checking this ability is helpful for diagnostic purposes, but should not be seen as an indication of writing ability. Assessing writing. Should vocabulary, grammar, and spelling be assessed separately from written tasks? If the purpose of assessment is to assess the contributing knowledge and skills for writing, usually for diagnostic purposes, then it's appropriate to assess them separately. Assessing language and content. In the foreign or second language profession, content refers to subject or curriculum knowledge. Content is content is topical knowledge. However, content is a more specific form of topical knowledge since teachers use it to refer to the type of formal knowledge that children learn at school. Themes bring content, and content provides children with an opportunity to talk, read, and write about something. Content-based tasks are likely to be more interactive and authentic and more likely to stimulate participation and interest. Assessing writing. Classroom assessment of writing. first observation, and then writing conferences. I think it is same like assessing reading. For example, observation, observe children's writing ability, involves ongoing checks of children's writing processes as well as their writing products. And then writing conferences involve teacher and student in one-to-one extended discussion of the writing that has been or is in the process of being done. And then the portfolios is samples of work can be collected in chronological order with completed criteria sheets attached to them. For example, observation sheets can be dated and kept together with records of writing conferences with children. And then self-assessment gives children an important opportunity to develop their awareness on the nature of progress and needs in writing. With awareness can come a degree of ownership and control of their own writing development. Okay, these are the types of writing assessment tasks for young learners. One, writing in speech bubbles. Uh, it's like comic strip, so the students will write the dialogue in speech bubbles with the pictures on that, and then writing in response to a picture. For example, there are people that in a bus stop, and then the rain is coming, so the students have to give opinion about that picture, and then completing a story. um, Completing a story, it can be begin with the story, some sentences, and then the students will continue the story. And then open response writing, main type of task used in classroom writing, as they as and therefore plays a key role in classroom writing assessment. A reminder about vocabulary helps children to write, and for those who have learned about different genres, an explicit reminder about the appropriate genre can also help them to get going. And then reforming a text. Once children know the form of some genres, they can be asked to reform a text into a new genre. This is not easy task, but it can be used with more proficient students. For example, read a story and then be asked to write the story from a different point of view, perhaps from the villain's point of view. Okay. Thank you, Bu Vero. Thank you, my friends, for listening my presentation. I hope this will be references to you for assessing your children's for reading and writing. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.